Doing today? Oh, trying to get it going. Give me a one in the chat if you can hear me. Bring it up on my phone. Ooh, it's just Tuesday. You saw the thumbnail. Wire Dog. Glad you can join me. Hit one in the chat if you can hear me. Let's see, you want to do that. Let me make that a little bigger. I can't even see that. You saw I'm gonna love. Appreciate you, Wired Out. What's up, casual economists? Hopefully everybody have a good Tuesday. So we're gonna talk about FedNow. I've seen a lot of videos. Shout out to Ty City. He was talking about the sheep. We're not talking about the sheep. We're gonna talk about a little more technology. But shout out to him. And I do have I found online the technical architecture of FedNow. So we're actually gonna go through that. We're gonna read a couple short videos, let everybody fall in, and we're actually going to do a technical overview of FedNow and see if the Federal Reserve is getting their systems up to where they need to be, right? So hopefully we won't be getting hacked. Seems like somebody gets hacked every day. Shout out to Move It. They getting everybody hacked. So I'm sure FedNow is not using Move It. So let's look at a few quick articles before we get in the overview, but we're going to get there. So it's from the Federal Reserve because Federal FedNow Services went live July 2023. It's available for depository institutions in the United States, enables individuals and businesses to send instant payments through their depository institution account. So I guess my next thing is see if I can sign up for FedNow, right? The service is flexible, neutral platform, supports a broad variety of instant payments. So for real, I thought it was just businesses and back in offices, but obviously individuals are included, right? So we'll talk a little bit about high level. What does that mean for the monetary part? Is the dollar okay? Are we going to be all digital in the next 10 years? Right. So that's a few things we could discuss, but I think in the next 10 years, we're going to be all digital, right? All coin, right? So at the most fundamental level, the service provides interbanking clearing and settlement that enable funds to be transferred from account to sender to account receiver in near real time at any time, any day of the year. The depository institution and their service providers can build on their fundamental capabilities to offer value-add services to their customers. FedNow Services is designed to maintain uninterrupted 24/7, 365. We'll look a little bit at their disaster recovery, figure out if they got everything figured out. The services have 24-hour business days each day of the week, including weekends and holidays. End-of-day balances are reported to the Federal Reserve accounting records for each participating depository institution on each FedNow Service business days, as access to intraday credit is provided to the participants in FedNow Services during business days under the same terms and conditions as for other Federal Reserve services. The Federal Now liquidity management transfer capability supports instant payment services. The liquidity management transfer enables participants in the FedNow service to transfer funds to one another to support liquidity needed to related to payment activities in the FedNow services. The transfer also supports participants in the private sector instant payment service backed in by a joint account of Federal Reserve Bank by enabling transfer between the master account and participants. The first release of FedNow services also include optional features, fraud prevention tools, the ability to join initially as a reserve-only participant, requests for payment capabilities, tools to support participants in their handling of payment inquiries. Additional features and services will be produced over time. More information can be found here. So let's see what that here is, and that's where we're going to end up. So once again, what's up, Hip Hop Sec Ops? I like that, Hip Hop Sec Ops. What's up? Glad you could join us. All right. So once again, it's their version of Cash App, right? So which those have been around. I think the Federal Reserve is trying to get into the game, right? The cool thing though is you can build features on top of their back end, right? So if you got certain customers, certain contracts, right? You can do smart contracts, put a smart contract on top of FedNow, right? So if you're doing real estate or have time contracts, put it on top of the blockchain. So I think there's different. What's up, Paul Lamont? Glad you could join us. And we'll talk about some of those additional features that you can add on, right? So if you're a bank, we're going to look at PricewaterhouseCoopers. They have some services already where you can build on top of FedNow. And once again, I'm going to read this PricewaterhouseCoopers short article, then we'll look at the technology and FedNow overview what they had on their website. It was decent, right? So I might bring up some questions and send them to them and see if they answer them, right? So I think that's what I might do. So we might do an online security review, have some questions, and send them to FedNow and see if they answer them, right? So that most of the time I don't hear a response when I do that, but I might try to do that as we go through. So real quick, let's look at what PwC. I like to see what the big companies are doing and what they're talking about on top of these services because they're so new and how they're trying to, of course, sell stuff to their customers. And if you have those type of skills, right, of course, you can work for Pricewaterhouse or build your own widgets on top of that and sell it to other companies, right? So once again, let's see what PricewaterhouseCoopers is talking about. Are you ready for FedNow? We're ready. Here are key considerations to help prepare for and adapt to the evolving payment landscape. Ready or not, the real-time payment revolution. Okay, is that our doorstep? Cashless and electronic payments are expected to double globally between 2020 and 2023, according to the payments PricewaterhouseCoopers payments. For banking institutions that have anticipated and prepared for this moment, these emerging capabilities provide significant opportunities to create innovative product solutions for customers. The Federal Reserve FedNow system slated for July 2023, and I think they made it as the next major component in the shift to real-time payments. FedNow aims to give financial institutions the opportunity to provide customers and business ubiquitous access to real-time payments. So for banking, reduced costs, better risk management, efficient payment process settlement. For customers, ability to transaction, have funds available instantly, real-time cash flow management, enhanced fraud and cybersecurity operations, right? And we'll talk a little bit about those. FedNow Service is the new instant payment infrastructure developed by the Federal Reserve Bank, financial institution in every side across the United States to provide safe and instant payment services. Through financial institution participating in FedNow, business and individual can send and receive instant payments. So what's the big deal, right? We could do that with Cash App. There's a ton of cash applications you can use, right? I think Cash App might be the most popular one right now. So two talking about clearinghouse, leapfrog, same day, ACHs in some instances. FedNow does not require participants in clearinghouse network and can process payments directly through the Fed Reserve master account. The FedNow service will be deployed in phases. Initial launches this month, 2023. We're focused on account-to-account and consumer-to-business bill play. Subsequent releases will focus on payments, business-to-consumer, immediate payroll, B2B invoicing, government tax payments, and many others, right? So once again, it's a new service. So I said, well, let's see. People have been talking about it from a CDC perspective, Cash App, digital currency. They're going to blow up the dollar, right? So we're not going to focus on that. We're going to focus on the technology of it, right? So here is, and I'll make sure I put that link in the description. So let's look at the technical overview of FedNow. Ta-da! I'm joking. Da-da-da. So make it a little bigger. So this is on their site, and we'll actually look at their site. Once again, I'm going to put the link in there. FedNow Service Technical Overview, Planning and Guide. It was this year, April 24th, 2023, version 1.0. All right. So when I looked at it, right, it was missing a few things. So, which they might not want, from a security perspective to be out. So if you have any questions, tech or cybersecurity, drop them in the box. You know how we do it, but we're going to walk through the technical overview. Right. This is the FedNow, which is their cash app for the Federal Reserve. They want to control some of that digital money. So let's see from a technical perspective what we're doing. Right. So talk about features and benefits, customer payment flow. This has surprised me. MQ is an IBM queuing client. So I was surprised when I saw the IBM Q client in the FedNow architecture. So first thing is, that's how they're going to get hacked. But we get in there. Shout out to Gorilla Smoke. Glad he could make it. Let me show him some love. Shout out to Gorilla Smoke. What's up? This is Fred. This is my sports channel. Shout out to my man. We had a really good conversation in live. So if you need PBO, we can chop it up. Trying to make sure my man's on the right path. He's going to do big things in the future. So we just got off a live quick chat, and he's doing all the right things. From PBO perspective, I sent him to Black Heights. I sent him to Kev Tech. I sent him to Textual Chatter, Tech G. So I sent him to some other people, right? But I appreciate that, XL Pro. Hit the like button. So let's walk through, once again, we're talking about the technology. MQ, we're going to get that's an IBM client for queuing. I'm like, Of course, 24/7, you talking about payments, you can't go down. Designing a client applications. Maybe we should do a starter app and walk through it, right? And see if we can get it there. What are some of the security controls? Right, so we're gonna get on there, page 10. FedNow ISO, right? I'm not a big ISO guy. That should be NIST. I'm not happy. I'm gonna have to talk to the FedNow, man. We shouldn't be doing ISO. We should be doing NIST. We the United States government, but we're gonna talk about that later now, right? FedNow Service usage guidelines. What's your SLA? What's your time? If you go down, what's going to happen? Message signing, of course, security. Talking about our public and private key pair, our asynchronous communication, key pair registration, management, and confidential. Key pair, that's it. How do you handle those key pairs so nobody intercepts the keys, right? The cool thing is when you do pair, right, you got the public key and the private key. You don't care if somebody's still a public key because you're sending it out to the public, right? In part 3, we want to talk about technical considerations, internal, external, fraud, and risk communication, right? Fraud is, I'm going to call it adjacent to cybersecurity, adjacent to GRC. How do you handle fraud, right? Well, if you're going to put something on the internet, you're going to have fraudulent payments, fraudulent people, right? How do you mitigate that risk? Especially when you open it up to the general public, right? So those are some of the questions we need to ask. So we're going to skim some of that and we're going to read. So let's read a little intro. We know it. FedNow Services, interbank 24/7, real-time gross settlement service with integrating clearing functionalities. The service allows participants to deliver end-to-end instant payments to their customers. So like other payments and settlement service offered by the Federal Reserve Bank, the FedNow service settles obligations between participating financial institutions through debits and credits to balance in their master accounts or those corresponding Federal Reserve banks. The FedNow service allows financial institutions and their customers to send payments, right? So whether they connect directly, assessing the impact on internal business systems, determining the cost of adopting the service, right? So interconnection, business pay, right? Do you have a smart contract? Are you taking payments for something you're selling? And you're going to batch them up in the business process and selling it, right? So who's the audience? The target audience for this guide is seniors and lead developers, managers and system architects who are experienced with software development lifecycle and have technology to design and integrate payments. It is also helpful for business and product staff to review the documents on how to better support that, right? So they telling you this is for your developers, hackers, and how do you get into payments, right? So two is let me put that in the box in case you want to follow along. Let me get that in the box. So you have it. Let me see what's going on in the box. So I put the link in there. That's the PDF. You have it now. So now you're dangerous. Oh, you welcome, man. Gorilla Smoke. Thanks again. No problem. Shout out to my man, Before the Billions. Go check him out. Definitely one of the tech bros making things happen. What's up? Yeah, facts. B2B, the new Cash App, the government wants to get in, but two is, as a engineer, especially a data engineer, put the pipeline. You can make your own bank. B2B, we're gonna make our own bank. So I need a wrench. I can do that, man. I'll give you a wrench. Let's see. Shit. Well, let me give you a wrench. Give me a minute. Let me see. Yeah. Let's see. There's it. What's up, Calvin? Taco Tuesday facts, man. Shout out to my man, Savage Scientist. Go check him out. Definitely out there. He's doing great things. He gave me some CISSP study help. I was a little stuck on that Bella Padula with the Biba. He gave me a little help on that. PBL was struggling. But let's get back though, right? And especially he's a developer. I think he's in cybersecurity now, so he's moving over, but definitely a developer. So let's get back to the tech overview. So get to know the FedNow Services. Financial institutions remain competitive to create new products. I want to do, and I might reach out to my man. Shout out to Engineering Cannabis. We might do a smart contract on top of the blockchain database, right? That way we can do our own smart contract and we can move money through the Fed service, right? So maybe that's a project. Features and benefits, you can do them through individuals. Instantly receiving, of course, business. We were talking about smart contracts. We were talking about batch and stuff you did. Give me 1 second. My dog opened up the door. I'll make sure it's not echoing. I'll be right back. 10 seconds. I'm back. Got me watching this senior dog. She's doing too much. Lay down. So, but once again, put anything in there. So once again, we get the smart contract. You see them right there. I put the link right here. If you want to get the PDF and figure out what's going on, we're gonna go through the architecture, getting it going through. Let's see. So service level, we know you got to be 365 if you're a bank, right? Flexibility, you can settle your own master accounts or corresponding master contracts. Configurable features, you already know you got to have a routing number, a bank number. So that just tells you the thing. This is what we're talking about. This is us right here. Security and risk mitigation. What security do they got? We're going to make sure we're not getting hacked. We're going to make sure we're not moving. We don't be moving up in here, right? Encryption on all data flows. What level of encryption? So that's what you're finding out. Okay, is that AES 1024, 248? Are you putting an encryption key in with your encryption to make sure nobody's stealing it? Make sure nobody's doing a man-in-the-middle attack. So those are some of the questions we're trying to figure out. Features to support message integrity, data security, message signing, ability to have your multiple keys in rotation, tools to help combat fraud, such as transaction value limit, ability to redirect transaction for a specific amount, network level maximum transaction value, which may be adjusted over time. Participants may configure transaction limits that are equal to or below the network limit. Once again, efficiency and transparency. Rich data supported ISO 2022 messages. For an example, options to include remittance information and payment messages, request for payment messages, financial institution to financial institution liquidity management. Right, I'm not an ISO guy, right? I'm a NIST guy, so I'm not happy with that. I'm gonna have to write them. Broadcast message notifying participants availability to receive credit transfer as well as list participants RTNs. Right? So the cool thing in B2B brought that up is you can really create your own Cash App, right? If you want to, right? So let's see what Calvin had. Let's see what's going on. So it's been a minute since I've been able to make it. Glad you can make it. So as scientists, see what's up, what's up. Man, I'm chilling here at work. I'm in DevSecOps. Shout out to DevSecOps. So I did a couple DevSecOps videos. I'm gonna have to get my man Savage Scientist on here interviewing. Keep being awesome. I appreciate it. Let's see. They will make sure it's hard to steal, but they can legally confiscate. Oh, facts. We're gonna talk about that. Part of it, I think, is you. And Biden came out and said he wants to figure out your what you buying up to $600, right? So they going. So part of that auditing of what you spending $600 is FedNow, Calvin. I agree with you correctly. So they want to be able to legally confiscate what you're doing, right? Because I think we're going to be a cashless society in 10 years. So I'm saying around 2035, everybody's going to be digital. The millennials and the Zs very rarely use cash anyway. I'm a cash guy because I'm old. So I think we're going to get there. Let's see, man, this is legit. I can come on, especially on the weekends after 6-5. Okay, we can make that happen. Like I said, I'm going to interview Savage Scientists because DevOps and DevSecOps is definitely in my purview of security. So once again, let's keep going. I put the link and I'll keep dropping it in there with the PDF, FedNow technology. Let's keep drilling down and see where we're going to get. They talked about some high-level functions. PBO is going to write up the findings and send it to the FedNow and see if they're going to answer it, right? Customer payment flow, let's get it. Sender end user interface. You're going to send it to the sender flow, which is probably going to be your company or your bank. They're going to send it to the back office ServiceNow Reserve Bank. It's going to send it to your institution. So I just send some money from my bank to my attorney's bank, right? So we can send it to the FedNow system. They will receive it, right, and get the money, but going back and forth, making sure you send a request for $1 million. They want to make sure your service provider says you have $1 million in your account, right, before you get it, right? So your master account, correspondent account, right? So you got all those checks. We're going to talk about AML, right, anti-money laundering, AML. So they have those features in there to make sure you're doing over something $10,000 a day. They're going to make sure you're not Nino Brown, right? So you know, all the technologies in there and checking it, right? So we got the fraud, we got the encryption, we got the checking, right? To make sure your account can handle what you're sending to somebody else, right? Those are our basic financial checks, right? We know what those are, right? So let's see. Man, let's see, man. I think, man, let's see. Society is 80% physical paper, core removed for transaction. Digital factories, but now always more. Oh, facts on that. Let's see. Since it's federal, they should be even more invested into this. Yeah, I thought they would be more in this. I think they do have some this later on, but let's keep grinding. It's allowed if you pay the fees to the system. Shout out to Nino Brown for the old people. They know who that is. Shout out to us. But let's keep going. Technically. We get to the good stuff, right? So we're going to talk about initiate the payment. So I'm not going to go through it. Send it to the financial credit, like we talked. FedNow system validates the payment, verifying the message meet proper format. We're gonna look at the I think it was an XML format they were using. They should have used JSON, but you know they still doing XML. We look at the file layout. We look at that. FedNow sends the contents of the payment message to the recipient financial institution. So for the programmers, we know the XML's got to be in a certain form. So when you send it to the bank, like you said, you can accept, reject without posting. The receiver financial institution should use this step. Confirmation, the receiver institution sends a positive response saying what you sent was good. You got the money in the bank. You're in the right format, right? ServiceNow settles the payment, meaning you get the money. Step 7, the FedNow services. Because if you remember, Cash App had a glitch where they wasn't validating certain people's accounts. So people were sending money they didn't even have in it, right? And I think people were buying stock with that money. It was something crazy. We might look at that. The receiver institution makes the funds available, confirming the confirmation of the posting. If the receiver financial institution sends a confirmation of the posting messages through the services, it should notify the customers that the fund has been made available, right? You get an instant message or an email. The fund service will limit the process of payments to 20 seconds and will settle settle that within the set amount of time or not at all, while the reserve expect most payments to be settled in a few seconds, well below the maximum allowable time. The payment timeout clock sets expectation for the transaction submitted service will be rejected immediately. Right, so you got 20 seconds to get this money, right, or you're not gonna get it, which is cool, right? Cash App is like that, right? So that's what's gonna happen. So now we're gonna get a technical view. We're gonna look at their network setup. PBO wasn't happy with the network setup, but we're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to it. See my man Ty in the house. Hope things are doing well. Who corresponded on me? Yeah, New Jack is up there for me. Shout out to FedNow. FedNow is a big push for. Oh yeah, we're gonna blow up the dollar, but that's a different thing. We're gonna talk about many banks are not joining FedNow. I would join either way. I would wait at least till we got on version 2.0. I never joined anything on 1.0. So now we're going to talk about the technical overview. Once again, let me put the link in the description so you can have the PDF. So you can look at it. PBO is going to write up a risk assessment and send it to the FedNow people and ask questions. We're going to see if they're going to respond to PBO. PBO ain't going to get a response because I've done that before. So we're going to look at the transactions. Some things they might have, and they just didn't put in there because they didn't want people to see it. But let's get to it. Once again, if y'all got any questions, tech or cybersecurity, put them in the box, and we'll get to them. So part 2, let's talk about the technical overview. Technical overview of FedNow, including key information about the architecture, components that comprise the architecture, the important information of financial institution to understand, access, and plan. So this is, shout out to my man Network Bruh. I should give him a shout out. As a cybersecurity, you got to understand basic networking because everything, your data gets moved in packets. Your data gets moved in subnets. Your data gets moved through VPN. So you have to have a basic understanding of networking. Now, for me, networking is my weakest segment. I'm really working on that. AWS actually has a networking certificate. I probably put that in my 2024 things to try to get, but you basically need a basic understanding of networking. So anytime I do a risk assessment, network review, shout out to my man Savage Scientist. When you talk about Purple Team, which is application development, your application sits on web servers, app servers, and database. How are you moving that data? How are you using intrusion detection, intrusion prevention? Are you using Microsoft Defender? Are you using FireEye? What are you using to handle your network control? What are you using for your endpoint security? All that's part of networking security. So you need to understand a basic network because that's the first thing I'm looking at. I need your network design. So I want to see old school. I want to see 3-tier. I want to see some subnets. I want to see some VLANs. I want to see a web tier, app tier, the database tier. What are those tiers, right? And when I look at it, we're about to look at it, I look like we short a few tiers on the Fed side. So maybe they got them back there. They didn't show them. So I'm a PBO going to send them a list and ask them. I don't see my 3 tiers on the Fed side, but let's get to it. Right? So the FedNow network architecture, accessible via communication channels provided by the Federal Reserve Bank. Fed lines, access to FedNow services available over dedicated WAN lines or virtual private network. So is that Cisco? Is that Juniper? Is that, are you using your own dark web, your own dark fiber? AWS got a lot of dark fiber they control, right? Same thing with Azure, right? They got their own private network in the United States. So two is I couldn't figure out is Fed now running on their own servers? They in AWS, they in Azure, they on Google. I couldn't figure that out, right? So that's going to be my first question I'm going to ask the Fed is, what cloud provider are you using? So give me a 1 in the chat if you think they're going to answer that question. PBL's going to ask them what cloud provider are you using? So give me a 1 in the chat if you think they're going to answer PBO's question. PBO, the link in the chat so you do not have to post multiple times. That's cool. Good looking out for me, man. I appreciate that, man. Let me see. Can I pin it? I am struggle streaming. I am struggle streaming today. Well, let me pin. Let me see what's going on with that. Oh, boom. I appreciate that. My chat helping me out, man. It's PBO struggle streaming. Shout out to my man helping me out. Calvin, always there. Give me good advice. PBO, take good advice. Basic network, highly important. Let's see. Why we use Microsoft endpoints, Defender endpoints. Facts. It should be the Fed Cloud. Yeah, but is that the Fed Cloud? So is that the federal cloud or is that AWS Fed, FedRAMP Cloud? Is that Azure FedRAMP Cloud or is that their own FedRAMP Cloud? Big fat zero. Come on, Rondo, man. You don't think PBO gonna get that answer? I'm gonna send them the questions. They're running on DARPA with facts. A lot of people are not hip to the vampire tax. What's up, recycling guy? So Mondo don't think they're gonna ask your PBO's question when he asks what cloud they're on. So, I think you're correct, but PBO is gonna get a list and he's gonna send them to their support. So, see what's up. What's up? Shout out to my man NC Worker, one of my day ones. So let's keep going. This is the real thing that really threw me off, though. It threw me off. Participating financial institutions connected directly with the Federal Reserve Bank using FedLine solution or connected via service provider. And I got their FedLine diagram. Now pay attention. This is really what threw me. Participants exchange FedNow servicing using an IBM MQ client. So MQ is for queues, but they're using the IBM MQ client. PBO was frowning up when he saw that. Participants using the IBM MQ client library to connect remotely to the FedNow MQ servers. So you running WebSphere? You running IBM Web Federal lines. The FedNow MQ environment operates in a single cluster across sites, allowing participants to connect to server at any site. So here's the customer site. We got our own thing. We got our MQ client, an IBM PBO really frowning up. Okay, we got our VPN. I feel good. Desktops, we can be doing Citrus. I can see that, right? Okay, now we flowing over the internet, wide area network, FBR. Then our back end, we got our FBR payment applications and our middle servers, which sounds like IBM. Right, we got our digital certificates. We're certificate-based TLS. I'm going to ask them, is that 1.3? We need to be 1.3, TLS 1.3. That's what we need to be at to do federal work. So let me see what the chat. I'm not feeling that IBM MQ client. I did that MQ client in like 2007 when I was doing WebSphere. I'm confused. I got it highlighted so y'all can see it. I'm confused. See what my man Savage Scientist says. It could be a private cloud on Microsoft. They did win the multi-billion. But you remember that multi-billion got split up with 4 companies. It was Azure, AWS, Google, which I surprised won. And Oracle came in a 4th. They slid in there, but Oracle database been hot on that Fed work. So you're right. Those 4 did it. And all of those do have government clouds that you can use. But I'm confused. You see it highlighted up there. Why are we using an IBM MQ client? That's just weird for me. Might run a sneaker that might be worth buying stock in. Facts. But so that MQ client, I'm like, dude, IBM. So are you using WebSphere for your middle servers? So PBO is going to ask that question, but I think I'm following my man Rondo Mondo. I think they're going to give me a big fat zero. They're not going to answer my question. I'm like, okay, if you're doing an MQ client, is that middle server IBM WebSphere? MQ client is kind of proprietary. I don't think it's like open source, so you can use the MQ client with Apache server or Tomcat or Spring, or shout out to Microsoft. I'm sure they got a Cube server. I'm just not aware of it. So so that really confused me. So that right there says, man, I'm not using it till version 2 come out. Let's see what my man said. Well, IBM did close source work, so maybe they secured it. That could be. That's just weird to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm overreacting. Let me know if I'm overreacting, Calvin. I don't know, man. I might be overreacting. IBM didn't even win any of the money. Savage Sciences, they didn't even get any of the $1 billion. They didn't win any of the $1 billion RFP that came out. Still, if I'm IBM, I'm not gonna do it. IBM MQ. I want to do something more technology nimble before I do ads. So I don't know. I'm a little confused. Give me your thoughts on that, Savage. When I worked out, they were pushing cloud and middleware. Now that stuff run, it scales. It's just kind of closed and outdated, Savage. If I was doing something new and innovative, I don't think I would pick IBM middleware to do that. But like I said, maybe I'm overreacted. Maybe too is IBM. They've been doing big systems forever and doing it forever. Everybody, give me 1 sec. I gotta let this dog out of my office. Watch you to see your dog. She grumpy. Come on, get out. I'm back. So that's what kind of just threw me off. I'm gonna let everybody chime in on that IBM middleware. That really threw me off. I don't know why. It just kind of like, they own the OS though. They own That's true. Microsoft purchased IBM hardware. That's true. Because it scales, right? They still sell a lot of mainframes because from an insurance company and transactions, you still can't be the mainframe. But I guess if I'm doing something nimble, cutting edge, using IBM, I would use their consulting company. I just don't know if I would use their products, right? I would do VMware. I would have spun up on Azure. I would have spun up AWS. I'm not a huge Google fan. I think they're a little too technically immature, but so let's keep going. I'm gonna let that go. I'm gonna drop that. FedNow Services profile and components. Okay, we got a price connection profile. So let's see. Connection parties, conceptual entity which owns connectivity to FedNow Service and authorized to receive and send messages as long as they're FedNow interface, which is an MQ series. Connection point is a logical group of endpoints / queues. So they're using queuing, which for this, I would think, you don't want to connect everything hard. And if you spun up, 1 million transactions, you have to spill up 1 million servers or something. Right? You put them in a queue, then you can take your time processing. But remember, you only got 20 seconds to process them. So you're going to have to scale up pretty quick, which is all about a connection party and a participant profile. Is required for each RTN that participants use to send or receive payments and messages through the FedNow services, regardless of whether they're connected to the FedNow service directly or through a service provider. Each RTN is associated with a single participant's profile. There can be multiple participant profiles per institution, and profiles defines the settings and features in the FedNow service that enable each RTN. So I would believe you have multiple features, and I'm sure there's going to be some high frequency trading in the background, right? So you're going to make sure those guys get done in a second, and right, you're going to charge them for that, right? So you'll have different levels of speed that you can process, right? If you're a small company compared if you're doing high frequency trading, so I'm sure somebody will be running high frequency trades through the back end, right? So we're going to dig into the queue a little bit, but once again, I don't know why, just tearing me up. Okay, let's see. IBM Alphax, they on the quantum. I'll give you that. They on the quantum. Because people forget, people are so enamored with ChatGPT, but Watson been around what? Chime in. Watson been around 10 years, right? That was really the business. ChatGPT was Watson, right? So don't get me wrong. IBM's been at the cutting edge, but they're not at the cutting edge, right? When you think cutting edge, IBM don't really just jump in your mind, right? You would think Google, AWS, and Azure are more cutting edge than IBM, but maybe you need that stay true. If I looked at Google me too, I do. I did a security review on it, and I got into it with Google. They didn't like PBO. PBO told a big vendor don't send them no work, so they didn't like. When I hear Microsoft, Oracle, IBM, Cisco, Sun, it reminds me of Real Solutions. No, I give you that. Because those companies been in the business forever, and they've done big company stuff, right? All of that, especially in 2000s and before 2010, right? Those were the big companies, and any big transactions you were running, especially if you were talking about 1 billion transactions or big money, those were the, even though you misspelled Microsoft, I feel you, but no, you're right. Those were the big tech. I love Sun Solaris before I went to Red Hat. So yeah, shout out to that. Currently learning SEO. Oh, facts. See what my man said. Watson Series Act. Yeah, so I always show them love, man. I always tell people, man. IBM was in the Watson game, and they dominate medical in that area for artificial intelligence. Watson dominates that area. Let's see. IBM is focused on BI quantum computers. Yep, that's what my man Savage Scientist said up there with the quantum. Yeah, IBM's been pushing quantum for a minute. So let's keep going. We knew they were going to be a Q series with that many transactions, right? You're not hard coding those transactions. You're going to put them in the queue. Give your time, your back end to spin up and work those records you put in there, right? And you can spin up the back end. But if you put 10 million transactions in, you're not going to have 10 million middleware services, right? So you probably only need a third of that. So as you put them on, your middleware is going to be on working those transactions. So let's get it. So MQ connectivity and services, participant A, B, put them in your FedLine connections. Right here, we put them in our IBM queue, right? So those are going to be XMLs in there. Then your FedNow back service is going to pull them off the queue, right? Work them, then send them back in 20 seconds, right? With your confirmation number. I'm sure they're going to get my ID so you can trace the transaction. I'm sure we're going to log out them transactions so we can figure out what happened, right? So participants going to come in there, connect to the FedLine, put them on your FedNow and your IBM queue, which I'm still not sitting well, but we're going to roll with it. Then your back end, I don't know if that's Java. We're going to ask those questions. I don't know if that's Power Apps, C#, PHP, right? Whatever. It could be raw PL SQL, T-SQL. You could be just running them straight from the database and pulling them off. Let's see if it's going to tell us in here. For the release of service now, application above supports on asynchronous, right? A message paradigm implemented by IBM MQ. Boo. Then we're going to keep going. FedNow Services host the cluster. Shout out to IBM Q. Manages payment applications for participants and their service providers. Interact directly with the Q manager and put and get messages to the Microsoft embedded MQ library. Each participant connect directly to the ServiceNow services and dedicated queues hosted by this FedNow services. Queues are defined by either FedNow out queues or FedNow in queues. Yeah, shout out to that. That's how we did it when I was at the government. You got your in and out queues to direct the messages. Naming pattern for out queues is controlled by FedNow. The naming in queues allows for customization by the participants. Right, so once again, we could put a blockchain database to make sure we keep track of every transaction inside the blockchain. We could do a smart contract. Like these are things we're putting on top of FedNow right there to customize it for our participants so we can charge them more money. 24/7 resiliency, FedNow services application. Designing a client application. So let's see what's in the chat. And we talk about what could we add value in the client, right? We know the back end's the queue. We got multiple queues. We got our back end. We don't know if it's C#, Java, PHP, PL SQL, T-SQL. You can pull that directly out the queue, IBM queue, with database code, right? And save your whole middleware and just pull it straight out the database. I don't think they're going to be doing a relational database with that many records, but that's one of the questions we're trying to figure out. PBO is going to send them the question. Companies like Apple, Facebook, Twitter, Uber, ARL are like the survivors of the post.true, but they're more like brands instead of companies. Facebook's got some killer tech. They created their own database. They created Cassandra. Don't sleep on Facebook, man. Them dudes, because they were moving a petabyte every night of log files because, half the world's on Facebook. So they did some cool technology in Facebook. And Google, that search backend stuff with their, I forgot what they were calling them, backlinks, so they can figure out what's the most popular search to get that to order. Uber and AOL, I agree. They're just on top of that. Apple, they do some cool stuff, man. I always hate on them. Their stuff is just so elegantly smooth, too, and it works flawlessly. So I always give a shout out to them. You think it's proprietary code? You would think they would do something open source so they could move. Because I would think, Ty, from FedNow, you're probably right, is you would want to do something open source and cutting edge, use some of that. I'm trying to think of some of the new languages out there, Scala, or I forgot the other one that they're actually putting on the actual core itself. I look it up, but there's some just cool technologies out there. Let's see, PB, what's your Twitter for a link to share? I don't have a Twitter yet, recycling guy. I'm 55, man. I have not got on Twitter yet, man. They be disrespectful on Twitter, recycling guy. I'm still thinking about getting on Twitter. I am not on Twitter, man. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. That's really what I'm on, man. I got a Snapchat, but I don't use it. I'm thinking about getting on Twitter, man. Twitter just be so toxic. But let's get on designing the client and see where we at. When designing the client, ensure the process consume messages. We talked about a lot of running services that use persistent connection. Potentially, we're going to pull connections. We got to pull it. This helps to ensure optimal performance and configuration from FedNow Service MQ managers. Participants are allowed to have multiple connections open and are expected to make use of connections to send and receive. All right, yeah, we're going to have our connection pool. We're not going to close it. You close your connection pool. It's got to do a lot of stuff, right? You keep it open, you put it back on there, use it. The connection's open, you can just keep sending transactions, right? Shout out to connection pool. IBM MQ has set that up for you. You can just use it. Participants could consider solution designs that decouple the process of messages receiving from FedNow services from FedNow MQ service. This can be achieved by creating a layer that quickly pulls messages from the FedNow queues and store them locally on the messages, streaming, or other solutions where the actual business process can occur. So basically, they want you to build, well, not they want you to. You can build your own queuing service locally so you can kind of speed up what they're doing. All right. So I wouldn't recommend that because even though I'm not an IBM MQ fan, it gives you a lot of advanced features that you don't have to rebuild. Right. So if a message doesn't get there to resend, a message of timeout. All right. If your message will roll back, if you're doing 2 or 3 messages for business transactions and you need all 4 of these transactions to hit to debit, credit, business transactions, because there's 4 transactions, but you put them together. So it's 1 transaction. MQ will do that for you. Right. If you got to start writing that stuff manually, you're going to have a problem. Right. So let's talk about some of the security controls. The Fed services relied on multi-layer controls to ensure a high level of security for operations. The security measures employed, let's get to it. Security measures employed by Fedline Solution Network on which the Fed runs. Well, TLS, right? We know SSL has been hacked, so 3. So hopefully we're doing TLS 1.3. So PBO is going to send them that question. PBO is going to get about 20 questions and send them to FedNow. My man Rondo said they ain't going to answer, though, but we're going to send them and see what happens. Participants use a FRS-issued client certificate to perform mutual TLS authentication. FedNow validates that the entities referred to the message are allowed to use the queue. Requires our message to be signed. The service validates the signatures and associates between the entity sending the message and the key used. Participants are expected to use internal security and control measures and adapt them as needed so they are sufficiently handled. And that's the problem a lot of times is they now could do all the right thing, but if a company they let use it doesn't do the proper thing with their XML queue, right? You can do XML injection. I could put malware inside that XML, right? So a lot of that depends on what clients you allow to use them and the security level. The third party you allow to use FedNow hopefully won't get them hacked, right? So let's see what the chat said. Let's see. I'll get a Twitter. I've been thinking about getting a Twitter, man. Let's see. My bad. I'm old, man. You got to work with me. Forget Twitter. That's a bad way. Let's see what my man said. PBO, that's true, but they're running similar. They're not companies. They're known for long-time support and backward capability. Facts on that. I'll give you that. These companies are known for pulling products, but notice how Microsoft and Intel are still compatible. No, you're right. Sometimes the i9 can still run. You're right, but sometimes I think that holds them back, man. Same thing with Microsoft. Sometimes you just need to cut and go to the new technology so you can take advantage. You're still trying to run stuff on 386 outside of scientists. I think that's sometimes why we get hacked, man. We need to cut loose and make sure we're using some of the newest stuff. But I feel you, especially as a business, you want to make sure your investment is being used on that. I thought, you good? You good? I'm not the best typist, man. I'll give you a hard time. I can read it. I knew what it was. Shout out to brother Michael. Always support me, checking you out. So let's keep going. Let's keep going. We almost done. So FedNow is the ISO. Once again, I think that should be NIST 2022 standard. The meta entice for ensure compatibility with other messages. FedNow Services message can carry a variety of payloads defined by that service. We might go with that service though. While FedNow supports ISO 2022, similar to other real-time payment systems, provides usage guideline rules, supports technical and connectivity requirements while maintaining formal compatibility with the original standard. FedNow Service enhanced schemas of IS messages and SD files. The My Standard platform uses, once again, ISO message specification, FedNow readiness portal, and My Standards office a place to test compliances. Maybe we need to, I need to get with Savage Scientists and we get some couple XMLs and send it to them, right? So let's, we might click on that and see. Let's open up a new tab. Yeah, we might go through and see how we could test our XML, right? Message signing, once again, cryptographically signed using asymmetrical public and private keys. The keys and key pair are mathematically related and used to sign and validate the signature. Digital signatures help receive, verify, too. And I think that's what, I know I switched the subject. I think that's what movement was missing, right? So even though you could get access to the movement, if you was using digitally signed certificates, even if you could hack your movement, you couldn't. If you didn't have the right public, the right private key, you really couldn't send a message to move it, right, and get it hacked. So shout out to FedNow. They at least put that in place, right? Public and private key pair creation, key pair registration, management, and confidentiality. All right, must register your public keys. We're registered now. We know key infrastructure and how you use it is real important. Something key registry can be done by exchanging messages with ServiceNow using their MQ. So they can say, okay, we know you, because remember, they're giving you that RDN number, matches with that key. So when you send something, you can match them up. So it makes it harder for people to get in there and hack it. So that's a cool thing, right? Participants must maintain confidentiality of their private keys consistent with Federal Reserve Bank Operations Circular 8 and any other agreement which impose confidentiality or information security obligations on the FedNow Service participants and providers, right? The providers are the banks, so they're going to have that down pat. When you let individuals start doing this, they're going to mess that up, man. They're going to mess that up. Let's see what we're going to dig down now to the technical considerations. Once again, they didn't tell us a few things. So once again, PBO going to get about 20 questions and send them. There is a course for $2,000 that teaches you how to write MP. Wow, $2,000 MQ stuff. The cool thing, if you look at them, it was pretty easy to write the MQ stuff, to be honest. It's been a long time since I looked at that, though. Shout out that $2,000. Woo. They need to get. I appreciate that, recycling guy. Let's see what we got. Super chat. Thanks, PBL. Great content. Highly valuable. Glad I caught the lot. I appreciate it, recycling guy. We're gonna add that to the barbecue fund. Even though PBL gonna need to go on a diet, we're gonna add that to the barbecue fund. I'll check you out, Savage Scientists. Gotta run. Goddamn me too. Yeah, shout out to that, man. I go to a lot of meetings. One thing about cybersecurity, man, you be in a lot of meetings, man. I've been in a lot of meetings with lawyers. So once again, let's keep it moving. Let's talk about technical considerations. Once again, drop those in the drop your questions in the chat. We rolling. Let's keep it moving. Technical considerations for financial institution considering adopting the FedNow Service need to make a decision about possible changes to their technology. That's true. This includes internal systems that managed by external partners. Financial institutions are strongly encouraged to assess their existing platform. That's why we just looked at the PricewaterhouseCoopers. They're going to help you with that, right? So facilitate these conversations. What's the impact of your internal external system? Which internal systems will be impacted by the payment? Capabilities need to handle real-time processing 24/7. These would be the requirements, so we're just going to hit them. Consider where your backend system is designed for batch files, can prepare to support message-based. The cool thing is a lot of backend systems, if you're using some of the Oracle relational database, they have built-in queues inside T-SQL, inside Oracle, I think inside MySQL. They have built-in queuing systems already in there. And a lot of those are compatible with IBM MQ because it's been around for 30 years. So a lot of that's actually built in. Will additional authentication protocols need to be supported? What impact on the interfaces are used by your support systems? Will your current interface be able to report fraud mistakes like duplicate payments? A lot of times they send you an ID. Basically, they actually take your whole payment and digitally sign it, right, and come out with a hash. And they use that hash to figure out if it's a duplicate payment. So usually you have an ID number, and usually that ID number with the hash lets you know if that's a duplicate payment, right? What alerts notification of other relative information? If you took longer than 20 seconds, right, you're going to get an error, so you're going to need to be able to handle it. Is there a plan to offer real-time payments to user interfaces? This is the big one. UI mobile applications built in-house. Will their work be outsourced? So I'm sure Cash App or whoever give you a FedNow interface. If you pay more money, you can go to it, right? So there's the fraud and risk. We're just going to skip through that because we know there's going to be fraud. Review the fraud opportunity to leverage in instant capabilities. People know I'm an AWS guy and AWS. They have a whole fraud service that'll do a lot of this for you because it was built for Amazon. Amazon deals with fraud every day, right? With all the transactions. So a lot of that's built in. Threat detection, recovery models, deploy system tools to analyze and manipulate incoming transactions, use strong authentication, alerts and notifications made powerful tools. They actually give you a fraud model. Fraud must be reported using the fraud classifier model, which can provide a better understanding, right? So they got built-in fraud, which is cool. And we talk about the glossary terms. We're not going to go over that. So we clicked on that. This is their, let me switch, see what's in the chat before we move over. Let's see, recycling guy. I think Bitcoin is a superior system. Oh, facts to it for FedNow. Oh, I agree with you. Bitcoin, definitely. Because, the government's always late. Bitcoin, been out there forever. Cash App is really better than FedNow. So, no, I agree with you. And two is they telling you it's 1-0. Recycling FedNow doesn't solve double spend. No, you're right. But remember, recycling guy, and I agree with you 100%, is this is the 1.0 version. They already said they're going to give you more features or better features. So they're just going to try to duplicate, like you said, what Bitcoin definitely superior. Cash App is superior, right? A lot of those pre-payment applications out there now is already superior to what they're doing, right? So the government's always a little behind, a little late, but usually, once again, rock solid. They're older technology. So all the banks in the future, I think, are going to jump on board. All the federal stuff, they're the Federal Reserve, right? So the Federal Reserve is going to kind of push them to their app, right? But no, you're 100% right, recycling guy. But you already got to remember, the Fed's always going to be late to the party. They're not super innovative because they don't want to be bleeding edge. So once again, they're always going to come back a little behind. So let's switch over real quick. They talked about my standards and my FedNow. So let's see if we wanted to test something, what would that look like? Let's make that a little bigger. How to gain access to my standards. To obtain access to Federal Reserve Bank My Spare, you need to create a SWIFT account. If you already have a SWIFT account, right? SWIFT account is once again, their back office for when people move money overseas, right? So the average institution, you got to be big to have a Swift account. I don't think you do those for regular people. Create an account with the following, fill in your information, click on submit. So once again, I'll put that in the description box. That'll be interesting. PBO gonna try to register for a Swift account to see if he can get one. I think I agree with my man. That's gonna be a no. So let's look at their. Let's see. That was it. Let's look a little bit at the network diversity. All right. So basically, this is for disaster recovery. If something happens, so how they got their dual circuits, right? So when you connect into banks and Federal Reserves, right, you got dual circuits. So if this goes down, you got the back end. So this makes me think they got their own data center, because if you're using any of the big three, they got this stuff built in, right? So you got your dedicated circuits. Utilize 2 circuits for technical redundancy in the event of disruption of the primary circuit. Network circuits and interruption. Circuit diversity. Service helps minimize the risk of disruptions between both and the secondary. The create main diverse circuits. So once again, how are you running your web? Are they running Cisco through that? What hardware they're using for their WAN, right? I would think Cisco's the 800-pound gorilla. So you would think they would be running Cisco, but it's kind of hard to see. But once again, just different ways. So once again, I found let's switch over. I found a couple jobs on Indeed that was actually talking about FedNow. I was super surprised. Let's look at a couple of those. Do you think they'll? But that's a good question, Wire Dog. Let me highlight that real quick. Do you think they have a bug bounty for it? So bug bounties when they pay hackers penetration tests in their test area to go on and figure out if they can find bugs and actually pay them for them. If you look at Google, Microsoft, they have bug bounties. So if you find I think one guy got $1 million on a Microsoft bounty. It was something crazy big, right? So if you find something that's a hot bug or something that's being utilized in a while and you help Microsoft fix it, or the big guys, I'm gonna ask them that question, man. That's gonna be one of the questions I'm gonna send them. I'm gonna send them 20 questions. So put the questions in you want me to send to FedNow. I don't think they're gonna answer them. So are you using TLS 1.3? You got a bug bounty. How are you using IBM MQ to make it interoperability with an open source? Is your data center FedRAMP? So PBO gonna put together about 20 questions. That's a good question. You would think they would do that, man. You would think that would be an excellent use of our tax dollars, Wire Dog. So that's it. Let's see. Major banks like JP, Streets, use Swift all facts. It got now facts. 100%. It definitely got hacked. Somebody got it for $1 billion, I thought too, Ty. Somebody got it for a big amount. Fed has in-house pen testers. I agree with that. But sometimes you want to have some diversity, tie some different cycles. But no, you're right. Because when I worked at DOD, we didn't have pen testers on site, but we outsourced it to a big company. And that big company went around to all the government agencies, and we paid them to be the in-house testers, right? So, but you're right, they have in-house testers, but they usually pay some of the bigger companies to do pen testing for them. They will, but I think you should pay. Was it $400 billion? You're right, recycled out, but I think a lot of times when I was at DOD, we paid other service, even though we had our own pen testers. You want to get other people trying to attack. And two, a lot of times your pen testers they kind of grow together, end up testing the same things as pen testers. So you want to get different pen testers. Somebody might be a database expert, or somebody might be a network. Because a lot of times when you find your niche in pen testing, you kind of stay in that area. Are you a purple team database guy? Are you a web server guy? Are you a SQL injection guy. So I think you kind of stay in that realm. So when I seen them, like I said, when I'm DOD, we hired outside company. No, facts. No, you're right. I put that together. You're right. Pen testing and bug bounties because you want to have got right. You're right. That's what I was saying with that. You want to bring other people in because people tend to be more specialized when you're coming from the outside. So you can actually do both. So you can actually do both. So let's look at a couple of these jobs in there that was talking about FedNow. They were talking about principal C engineers. So obviously they were using Spring, Ruby, and Rails, like we talked about. What added benefit are you going to put on FedNow so you can charge your customers? So I don't know if this some programming outfit in Chicago. They're looking for FedNow. Where did I see that? System, they got their life cycle, DevSecOps. These, which I was surprised, Tomcat, Java, Oracle PL SQL, JMS, jQuery, Angular. 15 years, talking about PhD. Where was their FedNow? I saw Terraform. Shout out to Tam. Got to get your Terraform in there. Women Linux. So let's do that. I was surprised. So, which makes sense. People trying to get on the cutting edge, get in there and start making their money, right? So there's knowledge of real-time payments, RTP, and FedNow. So they want you to be a C++, I said sharp, C++ principal engineer with payments. Hopefully you got your FedNow because I think they want to build on top of it. And, like we talked about, what are you going to build on there so people can pay you, right? So same thing, financial services, Chicago, risk account manager, ACH risk. So let's find familiar, once again, real-time payments, FedNow, or other faster payment channel. Right, so I just wanted to touch on that. Obviously, it wasn't many. It was only like 50 jobs, but people are starting to look at that for real-time payments and kind of figuring out what's going to be the next big in there. So I'll hang out for a little bit. I just want to touch on that. People have been talking about FedNow from blow up the dollar point. Shout out to Thai City, the sheep. So how do people use blockchain? How do people use digital currency? FedNow is going to be watching you if you spend over $6. But I wanted to kind of touch on the technical background of it, how they were running it. Once again, I was surprised to see the IBM MQ in there. But once again, it was in there. Shout out to me. If you go to my about, you'll see ProfessorBlackOps@gmail.com. I talked to my man today for 20 minutes. He wanted probably 40 minutes. We talked about GRC. We talked about kind of getting the industry, why I think GRC is a gem. I sent him to about 2 or 3 other people for him to check out, other career developers. Shout out to Black Heights. Shout out to Textual Chatter. Shout out to Kev Tech. Shout out to Keep It Techie. Shout out to Tech G. Shout out to Master IT. It's a lot of guys out here trying to help you, trying to get you in the industry. PBO is just trying to do his part. So shout out Helmet. Glad you can make it. I ain't seen you in a minute. I took a little bit off myself. So once again, I got it pinned in the chat. We just talked about this. PBO is going to do a quick risk assessment and send them about 20 questions. Nobody think they're going to answer my questions. But PBO is going to find the email on here and send them to them. So we went over the first FedNow Service technical overview and planning guide. So, well, let me switch over that so y'all can see it. So that's what we went over real quick. The technical FedNow Service guide, technical overview. Like I said, we want to touch on it. Been busy as a fire. Shout out that Helmet Chili saving people's lives while PB over here just eating rib tips. Shout out to Helmet Chili. One of my best friends is a fireman, so shout out to him. So we just wanted to talk about FedNow from a technical overview. Too, as I pinned it to the chat, just wanted to go over and just kind of just do a technical overview, right? We looked at the network diagram. We talked about network being a part. We looked at the movement. We looked at the queue. We looked at the envelope. We know it's a queue. We believe it's an IBM web service middleware. Shout out to IBM though. I appreciate that, Ron. So we just want to touch on it from a different perspective once again. Shout out to Ty City, the sheet. We want to look at it once again from a technical overview, planning. And two is I'm gonna do this more in depth. Most people know I got a 2 or 3 AWS cert, so I'm getting my cloud skills up. PBO got 10 more years, so we're gonna start doing GRC like we walked through that. We're gonna look at how would you build it on AWS and make sure it was secure. And from a GRC, what things do you need to check to make sure your cloud is secure? Because remember, each cloud gives you pieces. You have to put them together to make sure they're HIPAA, NIST, FERPA for education, HIPAA, IRS Pub 1075. They give you pieces. You have to put those pieces together and validate it, right? It's a shared responsibility. So we're going to dig a little bit more on that. Once again, I wanted to do the technical version of FedNow. I've been just kind of doing the high level stuff. So now let's, as I said, work. We got to roll our sleeves up and start getting a little dirty. So we're going to look at 3-tier architectures in the cloud. We're going to look at AWS networking. We're going to look at Azure networking. We're going to look at the differences. How would you put them together to make sure they're more secure, right? PBO is going to say, okay, I see your back end, but is that 3-tier? You got a web tier. Where is your middleware at? Is your middleware accessible from the internet? The answer should be no. You should send them through your WAF, your web application firewall, then send them to your web server that gets to your middleware, right? We can have security at all those levels so we won't get hacked like who? We don't want to be moving out here. Moving's going to get us fired, right? So we got to make sure our security's on point. So once again, PBR wanted to roll his sleeves up a little bit and let's start getting a little dirty. And two is I was on shout out to Keep It Techie and Gabe. I'm on the Black Brain Trust too. Is what skills do we need to do so we can get 6 figures, so we can get $250,000, so we can get $300,000. But PBL is more practical. Let's get to 100 before we get to 300, right? So what skills do you need to do to get that, right? Especially in the GRC. I talked to a few people. Tech was laying off. So we got to make sure our skill sets are cool so we don't get laid off. PBO is kind of chunky and he likes to eat, so PBO can't be getting laid off. So once again, I'm going to hang out a little bit. I'll drop it if anybody wants to come up. I'm up here chatting. I'll drop the link if anybody want to come up, but I stay for about 10 or 15 more minutes. Oh, my God, it's 6 o'clock. But it's all good. I really enjoyed this. Like I said, PBO wanted to get it. As I said at work, let's get a little dirty and talk about encryption. Let's talk about digital signatures. Let's talk about queuing. The queue should be encrypted. Because a lot of times when you queue, if your queue fills up, it writes it to the disk until it has time to read it off. Of course, it's going to slow down, but sometimes if your memory fills up, you got to write it to the disk. If I write it to the disk, that disk needs to be encrypted. Who holds the encryption to the disk, right? So who controls that? In AWS, if I write to disk, I can have a KMS key that only I can read my disk, right? So those are some things we're going to start talking about and touching on from a security perspective. Once again, start getting a little dirty, going from GRC to the technical. For people that don't know me, my name is Professor Black Ops. The professor part, I taught 10 years at a community college. I taught introduction to computer security. I taught introduction to forensics. I taught business law. I have an MBA and a bachelor's in computer science. So, and I'll probably start teaching AWS intro computers maybe shortly. I've been in the industry for 35 years. I'm 55. I've been in security for 15 years. I worked at Department of Defense for 10. I worked at a large state agency for 10. I've done everything from GRC, DBA. I programmed Oracle and Java for 10 years. My first internship was in 1988 on an IBM mainframe doing JCL using a tape drive. Google that. That's computer history now. So most people know that, but for the few people new, that's a little bit about my background. Once again, I've been in IT for 35 years, security for about 15. I worked in Fortune 500 insurance, once again, DOD, large state agency doing GRC. Shout out to Doug. First, I salute. Interesting topic. I have to catch the peak. Yeah, it's a little something different. Doug definitely in there. So that's a little bit about me for the new people. Once again, I've been out there. I decided, shout out to Keep It Techie. He interviewed me first on YouTube. Kind of got my name out. So I try to do everything from introduction or commercial hacking for the everyday people. I got a GRC playlist. I have Security Plus playlist where I just do lectures over it. Shout out to Master IT and Tech G. Go check them out. They got sell courses for that. I did a 5-video on DevOps. So since I'm in GRC too, I like to touch different things because I work for big clients. So I use each one of those skills. So I might review development architecture that's in AWS cloud. I might do ARS compliance. I do a lot of IRS work. So they have IRS Pub 1075 is a security requirement for IRS. So I understand that. So I have to review developer setup, architecture setup to make sure they're valid to send IRS files like we were talking about FedNow. So they got to be in certain formats, certain encryption and level, policies and procedures, blah, 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 blah. So that's kind of my background. I just talked to somebody. My goal, hopefully, is to do a GRC and data privacy class. So when you build those architectures, how do you vet them to get them audited so you can do FedRAMP work, NIST work, IRS work? You have to have this security program to be able to send that type of work to the government, right? So you just can't jump on FedNow with no security or compliance, right? So they're going to check all that stuff. So I help companies fill out that paperwork so they can submit it to the government and get paid at a high level. So let me know. I'm rambling. So if y'all got any questions, I'm going to hang out a little bit longer. So once again, I've done GRC programming. I'm actually about to do a GRC low code or no code playlist. What does that mean? Inside Teams, you could do Power Automate and Power Apps. How could you do a small GRC program so you don't have to do it all in spreadsheets, right? So I do not. I do not. I'm actually on. If you look at KevTech, I don't know if you're familiar with KevTech. I'm in his Discord. I work for KevTech, so I'm in KevTech's Discord. I'm in Network Bros Discord. I do not have a Discord. I'm in a lot of Discords. I mean, if you look at my man Simply Cyber, he's super dope on GRC. He's a PhD. I'm in his Discord. I do not have a Discord. I help people with their Discord, Rondo. So once again, I'm in KevTech is probably the most one I'm active in. I'm in Simply Cyber's Discord. I'm in Network Bros Discord. I'm in about 5 Discords. I do not have my own, Rondo. I've been debating if I do this GRC class that I'm thinking about doing, I would do a Discord. I don't have anything where I would need a Discord right now. Before the Billions, I'm on his Discord. Shout out to him. I work for Before the Billions, so I'm in all their Discords. So, but no, Rondo, I'm slacking, man. I don't have a Discord. I don't have a Twitter. I don't have the Twitter. So no, come check me out, man. If you go to my About tab, Professor Black Ops, you'll see my email. If you want to connect with me, we can definitely get on and chop it up. It is a lot of notifications. It's definitely, but most of those, the one I think KevTech is super active. BDBs is active. Simply Cyber's the one that's I need to do more stuff on. So yeah, Brandon, I'm trying to figure out how to better manage that and handle that too. I was burnt out. I think I took 2 weeks off, and you were right. I had a lot of notifications, so that I just don't feel like managing all that infrastructure. Once again, I'm working on my CISP certs, and I'm doing labs on AWS, and I did about 30 AWS videos, and I'll probably start that again. How to do GRC in AWS, how to validate what you set up is NIST compliant, what you set up is HIPAA compliant. right? Even though it's in the cloud, once again, they give you pieces. You got to validate from a GRC compliance that it can run HIPAA type of work for a hospital or FISMA type of work for DOD. So, which means what type of encryption you're using, what type of database you're using. Like they said, is each individual flow encrypted? What level is encrypted at? SSL 3.0, I hope not, that's been hacked. TLS 1.3, correct answer. But once again, we're going to get on that and talk about that and grow into that. But yeah, if you want to reach out to me, professorblackops@gmail.com. Go to my about page. Hit that you are not a robot. That'll come up and give me 48 hours. I used to be a professional, man. Give me 48 hours. I've been lacking too. I tell people, ping me a couple times. PBL be busy, man, but I want to help you. Like you said, if you got something special, or if you want a certain type of video, let me look out. I'm gonna do a data privacy playlist that I'm gonna keep adding. I did GDPR. I've been doing a lot of CCPA. California has a ridiculous data privacy, and a lot of companies don't know how to handle that. If you get users from Cali, what do you need to do to make sure you CCPA compliant? Because Cali's dinging people, right? So what does that mean from a cybersecurity and a data privacy? What do you need to do for CCPA, which is the California Privacy Act, to make sure you're in compliance? Once again, that GRC life. So that's probably going to be my next video. And I'll probably go live more and more. Two is I talk generally about what is it like to be a senior manager? What is it like to, be old in this industry, right? I'm 55. I'm kind of on my back end. What is it like to be in the industry? How do you get a job? How do you get in senior management? Should you be on the technical track or the management track? Which one of those do you want to do? Shout out to Struggle Security. Shout out to Keep It Techie. We were talking about that because there's two tracks to this business, right? So where do you want to be at? So we're going to start talking a little bit about that. And the big one is, how do you get in this industry? A lot of times there's a lot of gatekeeping, I think, for amount of jobs we support to be shortage. And I was helping somebody. We were looking at entry-level jobs for GRC. They were talking about 5 years of experience. I'm like, that's not entry level, right? So what projects can you do to help you make that qualify for years of experience, right? So those are some things we're going to be tackling in the future. And most people on here know you will see me in these YouTube streets, right? And what those mean. So Professor Black Ops. Oh, let me see. Let's see what my man Calvin. We need you to do some videos on how to check our servers, Docker stuff, as example, security files, security. Now you facts, and I need to do that. I was actually talking about Tim and women in Linux. I was talking about security checks for Docker, security checks for Kubernetes, especially when you do that in the cloud. Then they got the serverless version of that. So yeah, I'm gonna start doing videos because I'm actually going to start focusing on containerization, right, Calvin? We know that's the future, and everybody's either doing Docker or Kubernetes, especially big companies. They love containers. So how do you do containers? How do you, like you said, especially when they're doing their own networking inside a container? So what checks can you do that? What checks from the API going into the containers, and internally, what security checks are you going to walk through? And that's I'll probably do that in the next week, Calvin, where I'll do one on Docker. What's the security checks on that? That's cool. Yeah, like I said, that whole container game, I need to get better at that myself. So like I said, as I learn, a lot of times I put it out, and it's just a lot. It's just sometimes we talked about that too. Is pick something and go with it. Don't be overwhelmed because, like you said, there's a ton of technology out here. You can't learn it all in 1 week. So pick something and go with it. So for me, I think I was going to start on Docker because I'm a Java guy. Most Java guys start with Docker. So from a security perspective. And like my man said, from a DevSecOps and a DevOps, from a security perspective, when you build it and put it in there, what's the security checks? How do you sign your code to make sure nobody's sneaky code on there like Kaseya's? It is. Even at my age, and I've done a lot of pieces, it's still overwhelming. So I usually just try to pick something every 3 months and just kind of focus on that, right? So I did the AWS thing for a while. I'm about to get back to it. Two is I get certs to show that I'm progressing on my learning, right? A lot of people get certs to get certs, right? I don't think I'm gonna get 3 certs and make $100,000, right? Those certs for me helps me prove that I'm progressing and understanding what I'm learning, right? So just try to get better and better. And that cloud, like you said, cloud alone is overwhelming. And I'm talking about one cloud. AWS has got like 300 services, but you talk about that with Azure, and you talk about the Oracle. Shout out to Game Over. You're gonna have to check out the replay. Yeah, now checking my man out. But it's right. But let me hit this again. And a lot of people ask that question when I was in Gabe's channel is pick something and learn it, right? You don't have to be the SME at it. You don't have to be good at it, but you need to understand it and be able to converse at it. You need to understand at least do a few labs at it, right? As a GRC person, I'm not going to spin up an AWS infrastructure, right? But I'm expected to understand it enough so I can review it. I need to understand a 3-tier network so when you spin it up in AWS, I know what it is. If you do 3 VMs, I need to understand VMs on different subnets and how to control traffic to make sure you can go from the internet to my database, right? So I need to understand firewalls, subnets, right? The basic understanding of how the traffic is going to run, right? I don't need to be a SME in it, but I do need to understand it from a GRC perspective, right? So let's see what my man said. Brandon Rose, how do you handle right now the documentation? I do use ChatGPT a lot. The cool thing is, a lot of times, is I'm lucky. We actually have my last job, and even this job, we actually have a technical writer, Brandon. So I give it out to him in bullet points. But you're right. And if you look on my videos, I just did an incident response exercise. ChatGPT wrote it all for me, right? I did an incident response. If you get hacked, what's going to happen? I did that. ChatGPT wrote it out for me. I said, give me a NIST incident response. I did an AWS. If this region went down and you had to fell over, I need an incident response for that. ChatGPT wrote up a lovely NIST incident exercise. I converted it once again. IRS Pub 1075 sits on top of this. I put some IRS Pub 1075 scenarios inside of it. But you're right too, Brandon, and for me, I'm not a good writer. So now I definitely use ChatGPT. And I told my boss that. He was cool with that. He actually told me to use it. So once again, there was a lawyer that used ChatGPT. He didn't validate the cases, so he got reprimanded. So you still got to validate ChatGPT to make sure it's doing what it was, right? So I definitely use ChatGPT, but I validate all the resources, and I do usually do a little twist in there. Yep. Calvin's right on. I was just saying that. Make sure you proof it after you're done. Yeah, you got to proof it, man. ChatGPT might get you fired, right? And 2 is that's why you get paid for your expertise, right? ChatGPT, I'm using it like a secretary, right? It's get it up, like Calvin said, I'm a proof it. And 2 is I'm gonna add the nuances for the IRS checks or the new. They were having insider threats real big in this, but it's this year ChatGPT. I think only goes to 2021, right? Now you can pay the extra thing to train it, but I think it only goes to 2021, right? So insider threats are real big in incident response. So if an insider steals something, how would you exercise that and what would you do, right? So now I'm gonna do a video on that and how that actually rolls too. But no, you're 100% correct. Like my man Calvin said, you got to proof it, right? It's your assistant, right? So you got to make sure you put it in its proper place, but definitely use it. It's we were actually having it write in code, so it's super cool, right? And once again, I'm doing Power Apps and Power Automate to help me with some GRC email reminders, and I'm gonna show them. Your policies have to be updated every year, so it sends a reminder and flow for all that stuff, right? And that's stuff you can't do on email, right? So using the built-in features of SharePoint and Teams in most mid-sized to big companies, they run that as your infrastructure. So how can you set that up? No, you good. You good. Hey, 2 as good as you. No, you facts, Brandon. We just all right. What's our love? We just want to make sure you don't get fired, Brandon. Once again, PBO need to be eating barbecue, man. I can't be getting fired, but we just want to put in this proper place, Brandon. It's all love. It's all love. PBO is about out, man. I want everybody to have. It's just Tuesday, so let's get that hump day tomorrow. I need it now. I am struggling. PBO gonna need to go on vacation, but so once get it. Once again, I'm gonna do 20 questions, and we probably do the version 2 of this and see if PBO hears back from FedNow. But I think my man was Rondo Mondo. I think there he is. I don't think PBO gonna get a reply, but I'm having about 20 questions to see if we can get them answered, right? So they might make me sign an NDA, but I'll let you know if they make me sign an NDA and I can't share that information with you. Long story short, when you in GRC, a lot of times I've looked at AWS's system security plan. I've looked at Google's security plan where they show the back office. They make you sign an NDA, so if it comes out, they would personally sue you, right? So that's the cool thing. You get to see some cool architecture stuff. I was like, man, I never knew you could do that. How do you know if you have a good understanding of a topic? For me, how I know is I take a cert test. Even if I don't take the cert test, there's practice cert tests out there. So that lets me know if I have a good understanding. I have four AWS certs. I have the AWS practitioner, I have the associate architect, I have the associate developer, and of course, I have the security specialty. Right? I need to take the operations, right, where you actually have to build it on there. So that's the fourth one I wanted to take, but I need to get my CISP so I could get a raise. My job said I needed the CISP, so PBO needs a raise, so I switched over to CISP. It's not going well, man. But I'm gonna get on there. Shout out to that. Yep, Taco Tuesday. I'm about to go get it. So for me, Ty, that's what I do. I take certs, even if I just take the practice test, right? Because they believe that's what you need to know for that. And anything you learn, like you said, GRC, they got the CGRC cert. Once again, I'm on the AWS, so I got AWS 4 certs. I want to get the sysops. I love databases. I was going to get the database one, and I was going to get the machine learning because those guys get paid, and the networking one. So so for me, that's how I tell if I'm doing it. GRC, Simply Cyber has his GRC entry level cert, I'm calling it. Then there's the CGRC part of that. So, and two is the big one is the CISSP. Then GRC, the big one I think is the CRSC, which is the risk one. The big one for that. So once again, Ty, that's how I do it. I let certs, even if I don't get the cert, if I take the practice test, that's how I validate my skills like that with the cert. Because if I'm learning, I might as well get the cert, right? Because then the cert validates. Just because you get a cert don't mean you understand and you can build it, but it gets you past, we talked about this, that HR gatekeeping, they love to see certs, right? And that gets you to the next part of the interview, right? So that's one other reason I do it. HR is always looking for certs or the gatekeeping thing before you get to the interview. Because a lot of times when you interviewing with 50 or 100 people applying, especially if you're looking for a remote job, there's going to be a lot of applicants. So you need to get that to separate you, Ty, to get on the back end. So that's my soapbox. Shout out to Calvin. Like I said, I'll see if there's any more questions. But for me, that's how I validate if I have a good understanding. And two is a lot of times, Ty, I do videos on it. So if I can do a video on it and explain it, right? Because the chat's going to let me know. Shout out to my chat. They'll let me know if I'm not explaining it right. They'll ask me questions. All right, so that's one way I know that and do the search. So I usually put those two together. So if I do a video, being able to explain it means you understand it at a high level, right? Even if you're mimicking what you read and you put it on slides, there's still an understanding. Because two is if I put it on a slide, a lot of times I'm gonna try to lab it a little bit. Like I said, I try to lab. I was up the last couple of weeks. I try to do a lab every day of AWS. I usually go on Udemy, and there's a million courses and people are labbing everything out there. Shout out to them. So I try to do a new lab section probably every 3 or 4 months, just do different labs and you start practicing and kind of moving up. And Calvin just brought it up. I'm hoping to start labbing on Docker and Kubernetes. So hopefully once I pass my CISP that I can get back to my AWS. But so now that's it, me rambling. Once again, it's hump day tomorrow. PBO got to go walk about 4 miles. I got to lose some damn weight. So PBO about to get his walk on. Once again, professorbblackops@gmail.com. You can go to my about page, reach out to me. I talked to my man. He was on there. We talked today for 40 minutes. He just asked me some questions to see if we all facts. Yep. You did me. What I do is, and Calvin was correct, is I find people I like on YouTube. And there's two guys that's Amazon. I forgot. They're like Smees. There's some big title. They got AWS. They got Udemy, and they charge. You can catch Udemy sale for. I got their class for like $30. So he's out there. I told a lot of people that I'm gonna do a video. I had an interview with Amazon. It's called The Loop. It was 6 hours. It was for $345,000. PBO didn't get it though, but PBO went through the interview. So PBO got to learn a little more. Shout out! I was just getting AWS. And I did a video. Somebody asked me if I want to interview for 300. Yes, I will. So PBO didn't get it. So PBO is going to talk about that. PBO is going to talk about The Loop. Of course, I can't say what they actually test me on, but we're going to talk about the part I failed, the part where I'm not a cultural fit. I'm old and grumpy, but we're going to dig into that a little bit. Shout out to Wayne Wallace. Always support me. Oh, yeah, I can't complain, man. PBO doing well, man. PBO ain't complaining, man. You be careful outside. Yeah, facts, man. I do need. Yeah, it is about 90 right now, so I'm going to have to get us to stack consistent. Yeah, facts game over for stacking my skills. The cool thing, since I've been in this industry so long, the other thing is, and I don't really harp on it, I think I get a little ageism, right? You know, I'm not 25 where I drank the 2-liter Mountain Dew and I could throw out, 4,000 lines of code in one night, right? People ain't doing that, but we're going to talk about it. I might, no, I'm definitely going to talk about it. So I've been talking about that. But and two is when we talk about how do we set y'all up so y'all can get that $300,000 with AWS. How do you do the STAR, right? There's the system technology, the area, and the reporting is they want you to do percentage technically of how you improve something. Even if it's a policy, even if it's a procedure, what percentage did you make it better? What percentage of the company use it? So we get on that. So we'll figure out how to get there. Let's get PBO's off. He about to get his walk on. Everybody have a happy hump day. And once again, if you need me, I love you, PBO. No homo. Facts, man. I love y'all too. If you need me, once again, professorbblackops@gmail.com. I talked to my man today, trying to get him on the right path. Reach out to me. You see me live. So once again, we're going to talk a little bit about everything. Work, cloud, GRC, DevOps, SecOps. Because as a GRC guy, a senior GRC guy, you need to understand each one of those at a certain level, because when you're a senior GRC guy, you got to work with the developers. You got to work with the apps. You got to work with the DBAs. You got to work with the CISO. I'm going to interview with this CIO from a large, very state agency. I was beating his people up, but now super dope guy. So we're going to talk about CIO and how the GRC works for it, how security works for them, and security, how does that actually play into the organization, right? Because if the organization is not making money, you don't need security, right? So you got to balance it. You can't be so secure where the company can't make money. But once again, we're going to get to it. Shout out to it. I appreciate the support. Professor Black Ops, everybody have a great weekend. You know the tagline. You see it. Let's get it. I'm out. Everybody have a great day.